Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Munoz, CEO of the experience agency D-Flash. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series, where I'm interviewing an amazing Black woman a day throughout the month of February for Black History Month. This week's episode is featuring Yoli Ouiya, who is a wellness and sustainability expert. She's phenomenal, knows a ton, has done incredible work. It's going to be a fantastic conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Yoli.
Hi, Laura. I'm so glad to be here.
It's such a delight to have you. As you know, I keep this very easy. Very first question.
Mm-hmm.
Always fascinated by the responsiveness. Yours will be no different. Yoli.
Yes.
What was your first job?
My first job was when I was 14 years old, and I was a camp counselor at the Boys and Girls Club for kids who were 12 years old.
So you were so much older.
Mm-hmm. I was only 2 years old.
I was saying, like a whole last 2 years.
Yes, and the reason the person hired me is he said I was mature and determined, and I could probably handle the job, and I did.
Ish.
No, I did. I did pretty well. It was me and another counselor who was older than me, and it was like a weird time because I'm like we're close in age, but I'm mature because I'm a city girl. I grew up in the city. It's what we do. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I'm like going through puberty. I'm figuring out my body. There's all these like cute older counselors, but I'm like, no boys. In my mind, I had a like no boy, like don't get caught up in the system policy because I wanted to focus on school and getting through that and getting to college. But that was a fun summer.
So you learned how to manage people.
Yes.
Get people to follow your way.
Yes, despite my age. Or appearance.
Appearance of age. And then lead the way.
Yes.
That sort of sounds kind of like you now.
Yes, I'll take that. In the spirit of 29 days of Black Girl Magic.
Sure.
I accept any and all compliments.
You're like, I receive it.
I receive it, I embody it, and then I will put it back into the world.
Amen. So what is it you do now?
I am a chef of life. I literally was a chef. And the reason I say that is because when you're cooking for yourself or for other people, you're not cooking one dish. You're cooking multiple dishes. So I always have something on the stove. I have things on the counter being prepped. And I have things in the oven being either cooked or warmed. And I even have stuff in the toaster oven on reserve. So I do a myriad of things. But my main focal point is helping people in general become more health and sustainably aware in their everyday life. So whether it's through content creation, I have a new YouTube series coming out in the next week or so, focused on helping people like find healthier food options, introducing them to how to save money doing so, and just overall general lifestyle questions. So the biggest one I need to focus on right now, or will be focusing on, is how to stay healthy when you're traveling.
How do you do that? Because it's really hard for me whenever I'm traveling. I mean, I find I try, and unless I'm somewhere like in San Francisco or LA where it's like a thing to be healthy,
thing. Yes,
and everywhere else is like, ugh.
Well, it all starts from before you even get on the plane to when you get on the plane to when you get off. So it's a process. So I'll be highlighting. Some people wear the mask. That's not a bad thing as long as it's the right mask and you're wearing it at the right time, because you're getting into this small contraption of a plane that hasn't been sanitized properly.
We know through Naomi Campbell's viral video.
But even before that, I knew that they don't clean. Like when you're getting off the plane and you see people coming on to clean the plane, and I put clean in quotes, all they're doing is picking up rubbish from the floor and from seats, maybe taking a few loose things here and there, but there is no sanitation or sanitization happening in between your flight and the next person's flight. And then there's the air filters in the plane, and that's circulating things.
That does not get cleaned.
Right, that does not get cleaned. So exposure to that for any amount of time, depending on what your immune system is, can have different effects. So for me, I'm like, well, what do? I bring my own water bottle. I get water out of the airport before I get on the plane because I don't drink the bottled plastic water. Don't get hot water on the plane. I'll bring a thermos with me and get hot water at like a whatever local or whatever coffee shop is in the airport.
Really?
Yeah, because the pipes on the plane are
gross.
Yes. So you're all those coffee drinkers on the plane.
Sorry, like me who has tea on the plane.
Yeah, I stopped doing that. So and I bring my own tea bags. So there are two things. I bring like 2 big thermoses, one for like room temperature water and one for hot water. And that way I can just alternate throughout the flight for everything I'm doing. And it saves you money. So that's step 1. And step 2 is like I'll be talking about different supplements you can take or supplements I take because I'm not a doctor. I'm just certified in plant-based nutrition. And I'll talk about my regimen and then people can adapt their regimen based on on the things that I do. So I'll tell you, I'll have a ton of stuff for you. Trust me.
Oh God, I'm so bad at that because, also I have insane anxiety on planes.
Okay.
So as a result, I kind of eat the same thing ahead of time. Like I always have like some sort of gummy candy because like that sort of like takes my mind off the fact that
that's fine.
Yeah. And I always have tea. Mm-hmm. And I always have some sort of like gummy thing throughout the flight, and then some sort of chocolate thing throughout the flight.
Love a good chocolate, especially dark chocolate.
Don't like dark chocolate.
Like at all?
No, I can have it.
Have you tried?
No, I have, but it's not really a fave.
Okay, like you're more like a milk chocolate.
I'm a milk chocolate kind of person. So I love a Kit Kat and a Snickers.
Oh, you're like candy.
Yeah, like candy.
Not like chocolate, like a chocolate bar.
I'm like all American, like candies, Twizzlers, Swedish Fish.
Ooh, so there are some new candies on the market. There's this one place called like Lakeside Champion, and they have a milk chocolate, organic, filled with peanut butter in the middle. No peanut, ma'am.
I don't like peanut butter.
Oh,
sorry.
It's okay. No judgment.
Sorry.
I'm a foodie. I enjoy food.
No, I'm the same, but I don't like peanut butter.
I don't like peanut butter.
That's the one thing I don't really like.
Yeah, so I am a glutton, so I know how to, in my mind, I've found a way to balance my gluttony with my healthful living. And I come from the world of being a strict, straight-edge vegan for over 13 years.
Wow.
Based on a bet.
You bet someone you can be a vegan and then it lasts 13 years?
No, they bet me I couldn't be a vegan for a week.
And you're like, oh.
So out of that came being a vegan chef, doing celebrity events, had a catering business while I was working full-time. I had a catering business for 10 years. I was working a job full-time. That's how I started it. And one time I had to cater a book conference. Small book conference, less than 50 people. But they called it a conference. I was like, all right, fine. My sous chef called out. Another person I had to help called out. And they wanted 3 meals a day for 2 days. 2 meals a day for 3 days. So it was like a Friday. It's like a weekend conference. Mm-hmm. So I called out of work sick on Thursday and Friday, did all the prep by myself on Thursday, and catered the whole thing by myself over the course of the weekend. Yeah. So the vegan thing came about as the bet. A week turned into 13 years. Now I say I'm plant-based, not plant-exclusive.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't lie.
You're like, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm not. It's a look. It's a thing to say. Oh, I'm vegan for some people.
Right.
Then some people do it for animal rights, which is perfectly okay and value add. Some people do it for health reasons. I started it on a bet, and also I saw it improve my health. I went from a size 14, 16 to a size 02. My family thought I was sick. And I'm like, no, I just stopped eating a bunch of low quality food.
Right.
And then I kind of leveled out at like a 4 or 6. So with that being said, in that time, my health improved in the first week, 2 weeks, month. I said, let me keep going. So my whole who I am today evolved out of that one bet in terms of like fully evolving into myself. I wasn't eating red meat at the time. I wasn't eating pork, primarily because of my grandfather who converted to Islam before I was even born and ate kosher. His favorite takeout food was from the Jewish Second Avenue Deli. So I always had this kind of background of health and wellness from that side, just from my grandfather. And as a result, this is where I am. So I got certified in plant-based nutrition a few years ago because I wanted to be more aware, and I knew I didn't want to. I got discouraged from becoming an RD from other RDs, registered dietitian, because they were like, Yoli, what they're teaching here is not what we believe.
Right.
And it's certainly not something you believe. So
don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't invest your time to be in a system that's going to frustrate you. And I needed some type of certification to say, hey, I've studied something.
Yeah, I'm legit here.
Yes. So that's what wound up happening. But I went from being like this strict, hardcore, you're going to eat that? Oh my God, I like had this privilege because I was around a bunch of privileged vegan people, elitists in the New York scene. And then over time, I realized that's not how you invite people into changing the way they eat. My family went from calling my food bird food to trying, like, to requesting me to make specific things for family get-togethers. So by being open, non-judgmental, accepting people where they are, and just say, all I care about is you eating better quality food and more vegetables. If you want to eat all the meats,
eat all the meats.
Do that, but get good quality meat. Stop buying that cheap stuff that's going to give you cancer in 20, 30 years. So that's my stance. There are people who would be against such a stance, but they're not living in reality. They're coming from a very entitled and privileged place. I'm an African and African American woman who's traveled the world, who's gone to the village in West Africa to visit family, and has seen all kinds of things. Now, the reason I say I'm plant-based, not plant-exclusive, is because when I travel in the world, I can't ensure that whatever food I'm getting is vegan. If I go to the village and I say, oh, no meat, whatever sauce they made that day...
is the sauce that got made.
That's the sauce that got made, and they'll take the big pieces of meat out of the dish. And it is disrespectful of me to come into someone's home and said, I'm not eating that stuff because that's not what I eat. So, and I've heard that there's an evolution happening. I've heard that same sentiment from other vegan people. They go someplace and someone offers them something, they may take a small bite or something to show respect.
Right.
And that's what moved me away from the New York vegan community into more of a global perspective. And yeah.
Wow. So if someone wants to start kind of getting plant-based, because I've started to do one plant-based meal a day, because I just when I did it as kind of as a bet too, with a friend of mine, if I could eat plant-based for a week.
Interesting.
And again, if you bet me to do something, I'm going to do it.
Exactly. That's how I got to the situation in the first place.
So I did it for a week, and I actually did feel a lot better. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, okay, you know what? I can do this maybe one plant-based meal a day. So I've started. So since before Christmas, I've been doing one plant. I've been trying to. I've missed a couple days here and there, but I've been pretty consistent of having at least one plant-based meal a day. And it's usually some sort of soup or a salad, or a vegan burrito or whatever. Okay. But what's a good way to get started? That's cost effective.
Because I'm a foodie, I looked at all the foods that I loved before I changed my diet and said, how can I make this plant-based? I started from that point because it made it easier to convert the things that I loved. So I loved mac and cheese.
Same.
It's delicious. But knowing that over 75% of African Americans or people of the African diaspora are lactose intolerant, I made a 5 My first mac and cheese was a 5-cheese vegan version that I made for Thanksgiving, and I catered, and people picked up meals and stuff, and it was fantastic. And I'm like, what other beloved foods can I convert to a vegan version? So I tell people to start from there. Think of something you love, albeit if it's a steak.
That might be a bit of an issue.
That may be a little bit of a challenge. There are faux meats out there, but be mindful of their ingredients and their nutritional value. But that's where I start from. And just convert everything as much as possible. And then when you get stuck, look online. So much. That's the one benefit of having the internet. It's a recipe for everything. Like you can make, like I've been making cheddar cheese from cashews. This next week I'll be making a mozzarella cheese that's actually stretchable and pullable.
Wow.
From cashew cheese. And it's literally a handful of ingredients to make it. So there's an alternative for everything. Now, there are the people who question, well, why are you vegan? Why do you need the fake meat? It's nostalgia. It's social.
You're right.
If you go to a cookout, you don't
want to be that bad person.
And you don't want to explain. I don't want to explain why I'm eating the way I do. Unless I'm like, there was a time where I was like, I'm going to be your evangelist into this healthy eating. Let me explain to you why you should come to plant-based Jesus. No, I don't want to be that person. So sometimes I'll go and get something like a Beyond Burger, and I'll bring it to a cookout and put that on the grill, and it looks and feels like
burger.
And if someone is curious, they'll try it. And if they try it, then they're like, oh, it's not bad. And they'll change their perspective. I think I did one time a friendly associate had me cater a birthday party full of like models and, industry folk.
Who don't eat.
They don't, but they do. They drink. And then when they drink, they'll have a little nibble of something.
Exactly.
So I made these, appetizers, and one of them, someone ate, a few people ate it, and they were like, oh my God, is this filet mignon? They didn't know the food was vegan, because the person who hired me was like, I wanted to surprise them. And I was like, no, it's seitan. And they were like,
seitan? What's seitan?
Exactly. So I think there's an implicit bias that happens when you tell someone vegan, because they have this idea of what this system has been. And it's, to be quite candid, the vegan system in its initial construction was about animal rights, but it's also very, it is elitist. Not everyone has access to the ingredients and the faux meats and stuff in different regions of the world. I've been to parts of the United States where I'm like, this is American country. Like,
yeah, I know.
This is American state. Like, this is
one of the 50. Okay, right.
So there's an elite like, oh well, everyone should stop eating meat. Not everyone consumes meat the same way we consume meat in the United States. Meat sometimes is a luxury in other places. They may have it once a week.
So back up off them.
Right. Don't do that. And if you want to go into some place and be, have a savior complex, well, back it up with some money and some resources and some training. Hey, we'll provide you some organic seeds for your farms and help support you in the future and blah, 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 blah. But don't go into anyone's territory and tell them how to live. Just be an example and don't be righteous about it. That's the biggest thing, the righteousness. So, that's how. There's a lot. There's so many tangents we can go on.
Oh, I know. So what's your take on the Beyond Burger and the Impossible Burger? I see conflicting reports. One being, it's a good sort of substitute, but you don't know what's in the Impossible Burger. You don't know what's in the Beyond Burgers. Like what are your thoughts about it?
This is kind of pseudo political. I appreciate the intention that they have. For me, if I'm choosing one, I'm choosing Beyond. simply because I know I can look at the ingredients. I know what the ingredients are. Um, I've met the founder before. We had a conversation. I appreciated the intent and his background and what he was trying to do. So that's my safe answer. Impossible. There were some recent studies coming out that came out about glyphosate being in the food, and I'm like, eee. It is a food technology and is based on science. And formulations of foods is a thing, but my hesitation is heme is new, and heme is the quote unquote active ingredient, if you will. It's lab grown, therefore, it's genetically modified food because they have to construct it. I am not a GMO person. I prefer not to consume GMOs just because there's not enough data to support that it's a safe consumable food over time. We don't know. And anyone who says, "Oh yeah, it's safe because it's like," no, there's a bunch of different factors. GMOs can and tend to use pesticides, insecticides. Like there's all these other factors that a lot of GMO advocates or people who try to over-explain GMOs. Oh, it's safe and it's how we're going to heal the world and help the world. No, we could go back to regenerative farming, which takes into account treating the earth
decently.
Yes,
decently. That's decently.
And how were things done before? You had a balance of human, animal, and planet, and those things work together.
Yeah.
And you create an ecosystem that makes for a better planet instead of abusing the land because you want to churn out, 10,000 acres of corn to be shipped to another country. So it's just going back to decency and that capacity. So yes, if I had to choose, or when I do choose, I typically choose Beyond Burger. Don't have it all the time, but once in a while it's a thing.
And what's your take on sustainability for real, as opposed to like a lot of the kind of plucky BS you see in the industry?
So there's a lot of things coming to a head, and we are at an impasse. Recycling does not work. Let's just call a spade a spade.
Go for it.
We've sent most of our recycling things are typically sent to other countries, other developing countries.
And they're like, here you go, recycle.
And those developing countries, majority of them have come back and rejected our boats and sent them back. And millions of tons of things don't get recycled because we aren't taught how to recycle properly. We put things in the wrong bin. Even composting in the program in New York City, I'm like, ooh, we have composting now. And then I walk past a huge building and there's one compost container. And I'm like, that's not possible. If you have a huge building with over 100 people living there, you're telling me one. So there's a lack of education. There's not much emphasis on educating people properly. People don't care enough to learn how to do it because there's numbers and everything that indicate if it can be recycled, how it's supposed to be recycled. So the whole system is, I don't want to call it a sham. It has good intentions, but the results in nothing really being done. So that's why I like different companies that are taking these products and making things out of the recycled goods. But there's so much stuff that we have that's just sitting and gets used in somewhere and sitting in a landfill that never breaks down. We have it's going to take, unfortunately, some major catastrophe for people to really get in their heads, hey, I have to have a different way of living. Like people are used to, hey, I'm just going to go buy this soap. And then the companies have to be active, brands have to be active in this conversation by starting to make products differently. So you mentioned a company a few minutes ago that makes detergent. They are thinking about how can we reduce the amount of water we use? How can we shift the packaging so there's less packaging by shifting to reducing the amount of water we have in this detergent and making it more like a dry or something small and compact, now we're reducing the amount of weight that goes to be shipped out. So now you're reducing the amount of fuel that's used to ship said products to stores. So it's like, it's a whole chain. You have to look at it from the ground up and from the top down. So it's going to take some of those bigger companies, and there are companies doing it. You mentioned Timberland is doing it. P&G is starting to look into it. Annie's, General Mills, like these companies are starting to say, hey, how can we not be the Band-Aid? How can we be the solution in changing? And it's going to take time. They're not every SKU in their category is going to be the sustainable brainchild of the future. But there are companies who are making that declaration and commitment to say, hey, within a certain amount of time,
gotta do this.
We have to do that. And Timberland is one of them I saw. I was like, they even did a project in Haiti with Hugh Locke and their farm there, where they started bringing industry back into Haiti with growing like cotton and rubber and training people who live there. It's a farmers program where the farmers, their reward, they get into the system. It doesn't cost them anything. They get the training, and their payback to the program is to bring in another farmer.
Oh,
it's a beautiful system, and Timberland has been in that program with them for a few years, and they're committed to helping bring in. And for some place like Haiti, where some of their exports used to be the norm, and because of unfortunate circumstances and bad racial relations or poor treatment and discrimination to Haitians who had the nerve to fight for their freedom and being punished, there is opportunity for them. And I think that's such a good model for other places, especially in the United States. Like, we don't have enough programs here to help train people and get them in that mindset of what sustainability could look like. Because it doesn't all have to, it's not just for Caucasian people. It's for all of us. African Americans and Caribbean people and African people. We are the ultimate recyclers. People post that meme of, like the plastic bags.
Yes, because we all have underneath our sinks.
We store them, we reuse them. We use them to
tie your hair.
Hot oil treatments.
Yeah.
Also, we were all, for people who are of African American descent, and in slavery, you were getting scraps for food, so you had to make do with whatever you were given. And in West Africa, in my dad's country, in Burkina Faso, like, everyone finds a way to reuse. It's the consumerism and the hype of, hey, that's the cool thing to do. Be a consumer. Have all the good things. Have all the stuff that the Westerners have, that change the mindset of utilizing everything you have and not being wasteful. So it's such a big issue, and if we don't address it soon, we already see the Earth rebelling.
Yes, between the earthquakes and the hurricanes
and the fires
and the tsunamis, it's clearly obvious that we are killing the planet. And if it's like, oh hell no, you're not killing me,
right?
We'll kill you first,
like baby kids.
Like, serious. Yes,
y'all gonna die. We'll keep multiplying these things until we get rid of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're the issue.
Yeah,
and our entitlement to, like, oh, we're here, so we own it. No, we don't own it. We are lucky to be inhabitants, and again, mindful that we are temporary inhabitants.
Exactly. So what's next for you? World domination.
What's next for me is creating this new content. Like, while I've been on this path of health and wellness and sustainability, I have the gift of, to me, I've always been told I had the gift of speaking and connecting with people, which makes sense because Barack is my birthday brother. So Barack, if you hear this, know that I think about you on our birthday every year, and one day we will party together.
Exactly. Speak it into existence.
Speak it into existence. And I have advised people over the years about them creating their content. And before, like could have been an early adopter on all of these things. But I was like, no, it'll eventually come. And here in full circle, like if I had started back when I told everyone else to do it, I'd be 10 years ahead of the game. But everything happens in the time that it's supposed to learn a lesson. So I'm focused on creating the YouTube series or video series, which will live on YouTube and IGTV, and podcast. The podcast I'm excited about. Still in ideation about the name, but it is essentially interviewing different people in the natural product industry who were pioneers of their products, and they're still around, especially in the face of the internet and digital sales. If you're a company that started 20 years ago and you are still here and still thriving, how and why? And what are some of the things that you see in the future, and how are you going to pivot are you going to pivot? So I've, tested the idea with a few people, and they're like, that's brilliant. Do it. Because it has not been done. I have a line of houseware products I'm working on for African Hippie.
Awesome.
Just got my first samples of new products for home, and that's something I've been wanting to do for years. After going through the painstaking process of winning my trademark. People, word to the wise, if you have an idea, if it's a good idea, get your trademark and use the proper channels to get said trademark. I've heard too many horror stories about people trying to do it on their own.
No.
And losing money. Just do it the right way the first time, and things will go on your way. So, and then last but not least is Next in Wellness, which is my adulting moment of doing more things in the natural product and sustainability world from an agency side. So in terms of consulting, diversity, inclusion, in quotation marks, but just creating space for people of color and women in the natural product space, because we buy the majority of this stuff, but unfortunately we are the minority, literally, in the decision-making process. And having a admin assistant doesn't count as like a leader. Like some people say, we have like 50% women, but they're all supporting staff.
They're not decision makers.
They're not the C-suite people. They're not the decision makers. They're not managing budgets and making lasting decisions. And I think that needs to be addressed. Like the National Product Show I told you about, some of the women who run and organize this show, they're mostly women, and they're phenomenal. And they do it every year, consistently, year after year. So give women and women of color a chance. How many founders have I interviewed at a panel last year? All women of color founders, natural product companies. Every single one of them, friends and family, round first. Could not get investors, could not get bank loans. One in particular was over $1 million in sales.
Unreal.
Could not get a bank loan to further grow. And I'm like, how does this make sense? So, for any venture capitalist out there who would like to help, my stretch goal is by the end of the year is to have a niche fund targeted at the natural product industry for women of color and women in general to invest and help their brands grow and take them from point A to point Z in a very aggressive, short amount of time. And I've pictures to a few friends, and they're like, the way I have it constructed in my mind, it's not your typical fund, and it's not Shark Tanky. It's very distinct in how, and every single one of them is like, do it.
Exactly.
Do it, because there's a way to do it in which you're not just throwing money at someone and telling them to figure out on their own. You're bringing a team of women. Everyone who I have on this project are all women who have extensive experience and knowledge and a keen insight and knowledge about all this stuff and completely underutilized, completely overlooked. And when I hear them open their mouths, I'm like, you're like my twin soul.
There you go.
So that's what I'm up to. And there's a lot. So I just need to compartmentalize. I think that's the issue with, not an issue, that is the challenge in being a phenomenal Black woman. We all have fantabulous ideas.
Oh, yes.
We can see the span of the universe in a moment of time. And it's just a matter of how do we compartmentalize that moment into something tangible and executable.
Right.
And still manage to
live
and be in self-service to our self-care.
Well, this is going to be my last question. What do you do for your self-care?
I do self-dates. I've been doing it for years since high school.
Self-dates?
My selfie dates are essentially whatever. I take myself on a date. I'm like, oh, girl, you know what? You look good. I'm going to take you to the movies. We're going to go to an affordable movie. So the Tuesday at AMC Lowe's is always $6. We'll go have a wonderful meal. If I want flowers, I'll get some really cute, sustainable flowers. I may go to the park. In the summertime, I will literally take myself by myself to the beach and commune with me and my ancestors for the day and lounge out. Solo vacations, massages. That's why everything is affordable now. There's no reason why you don't have to spend $300 to get a massage.
That's what Groupon is for.
That's what Groupon is for, but there are also other means. Like, especially if you live in a big city.
Yeah.
Like, I've gotten a massage for $30.
Same.
But I also realize sometimes I like to support some of the independent people, so I make sure to at least once a quarter go get like a full service from someone who's a trained professional.
Right.
So I just do that mostly every day. I drink a lot of teas. I take a lot of supplements. I work out. Like, I force myself now to work out. On the days especially where I'm like, I don't really feel like it, I get up and I go do something. How I started with the workout were people who were like, I can't, I don't want to. I started watching TV and working out in front of the TV.
Exactly.
Like, literally just random Wendy Williams. Her Hot Topics is like 20 to 22 minutes. And I would work out nonstop for that entire amount of time. And I did it consistently for 21 days and got myself in the habit of now my body appreciates movement again. I used to be a gym rat when I was younger. And then you get busy.
Right.
And you're like, make time.
You have to make time for yourself. This is I've committed to doing it this year where I'm just like, every single day, in the morning, I'm going to get up and do it. Whatever the hell it's going to be. Half an hour, 21 minutes, whatever.
Whatever it is, do something. Get your body accustomed to you checking in.
So you can tell what's up with you.
Yeah.
It's really important.
And especially people of color.
Oh my God, yes.
It's like, I'm fighting with people now. Just trying to get them to respect your body. Don't use age is an excuse of why there's an ache and a pain. It could be something way beyond that. It could be something that's preventable. It can be something that's treatable. Don't get so disconnected from your body that it starts to give up on you just as the same way you've given up on it.
Yeah, it's unreal. Oh, Yoli, we could keep talking for
hours.
It's been such an honor having you on this show. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Laura.
And we'll put all the links to the show notes of the YouTube channel and the stuff that you're doing right now so people can follow you and tweet and share.
Yes.
And let everyone know what all goodness that you're up to. And that is our show.